In 1970, a 4-year-old boy sat alone in a stark observation room at Stanford, staring down a single white marshmallow while a hidden clock ticked away 15 agonizing minutes. In the 1980, researchers discovered that 4-year-olds who had waited an extra few minutes for a second marshmallow went on to score an average of 210 points higher on their SATs a decade later. Is your entire life's trajectory your success, your health, your happiness sealed by a single, simple choice you made as a 4-year-old? Buried on page 14 of the Raw Annex was a demographic anomaly that invalidated 30 years of child psychology. Mischel hid the fact that almost every single child in his study shared the same elite Stanford zip code. When a team in 2018 reran the experiment with 918 children, the entire illusion came crashing down. To understand how a single confection became the most famous psychological predictor in history, you have to go back to 1960 at Stanford University. Psychologist Walter Mischel was obsessed with a simple question: why do some humans give in to immediate desire while others can wait? He built a special observation space at Bing Nursery School, equipped with one-way mirrors and hidden microphones. The setup was deceptively simple. A child was escorted into a quiet room devoid of all distractions. No toys, no books, no posters. An experimenter placed a treat on the table: a marshmallow, a pretzel, or an Oreo cookie. Then came the proposition. The researcher explained that they had to step out of the room for a short errand. If the child ate the marshmallow right now, they got exactly one. But if they waited until the researcher returned 15 minutes later, they got two. Imagine being 4 years old. 50 minutes feels like an eternity. How would your 4-year-old self handle that choice? The tape recordings revealed agonizing torture. Some children covered their eyes. Some kicked the desk. Others licked the marshmallow without actually biting it. Between 1968 and 1974, Mischel tested over 600 children at Bing Nursery School. Most kids caved in less than 3 minutes. Only about 30% managed to reach the 15-minute threshold. At the time, Mischel published his paper as a simple study on cognitive strategies. He logged the data, put the files in storage, and moved on. The story should have ended right there. But Mischel had daughters who attended that very same nursery school. Over dinner in the 1980, he routinely asked his daughters how their childhood classmates were faring in high school. Mischel noticed a startling pattern. The kids who ate the marshmallow instantly seemed to be falling behind, while the patient ones were thriving. In 1988, Mischel tracked down hundreds of the original participants, now high school seniors, and sent out detailed questionnaires. What he discovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The correlation was unreal. Children who waited the full 15 minutes scored an average of 210 points higher on their SATs than those who caved within 30 seconds. Follow-ups in the 1990s and 2000 added even more terrifying metrics. Longer wait times correlated with lower body mass index, lower rates of drug addiction, and lower chance of criminal convictions. It seemed the secret of life had been unlocked. A single snack on a table was a crystal ball into a human soul. If you want to discover how deep this psychology runs in your own brain, Human Code decodes human nature. Like this every week, hit subscribe right now. By the late 1990s, the Marshmallow Test was absolute cultural gospel. Fortune 500 CEOs cited it. School districts reorganized their entire curricula around training self-control. The message to the world was unforgiving. Self-control is an innate character trait. You either have it at age 4 or you are condemned to failure. So is it destiny? Locked in at age 4. For 30 years, nobody questioned the experiment. Until 2012, when a young researcher at the University of Rochester noticed something wrong with the room. Her name was Dr. Celeste Kidd. She realized everyone had made a fatal assumption, that every child in the study trusted the adult in the room. Think about what happens in a child's mind when an adult makes a promise. You wake up, an adult hands you a jar of dull art supplies and promises to bring you shiny new stickers if you wait. You sit patiently. 10 minutes pass. The adult returns and says, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We don't have any stickers after all." Now that same adult places a single marshmallow in front of you, leaves the room, and promises a second one if you wait 15 minutes. What do? You eat it immediately. Not because you lack willpower, but because you are rational. The adult is a liar. When Celeste Kidd ran this exact experiment in 2012, children who experienced a broken promise waited an average of just 3 minutes. Children who experienced kept promises waited 4 times longer, an average of 12 full minutes. The test wasn't measuring a child's character. It was measuring their trust in a reliable world. If a child grows up in an unstable home where food is stolen, promises are broken, and tomorrow isn't guaranteed, eating the treat now is the smartest thing they can do. But if the test is so powerful, what is it actually measuring? The child, or the promises the world has made to them? In 2018, NYU researcher Dr. Tyler Watts decided to execute the ultimate reckoning. He staged a massive replication study with 918 children. Unlike Walter Mischel's original cohort, which was drawn exclusively from the children of Stanford professors, Watts recruited a diverse population across all income levels. When Watts ran the statistical regression across 918 children, the 210-point SAT gap collapsed into 0. Once you adjusted for the parents' income, wealth, and level of education, the Marshmallow Test predicted virtually nothing about a child's future. A wealthy child whose parents went to college could eat the marshmallow in 4 seconds, and they would still grow up to score high on the SATs. A poor child could wait the full 15 minutes, but without resources, tutors, and stable housing, their patience couldn't overcome the systemic odds.
The tragic human cost of this pop psychology illusion fell squarely on parents.
For 3 decades, terrified parents put toddlers through self-control boot camps, punishing them for surviving poverty. The crystal ball was shattered. The Marshmallow Test was declared one of the greatest scientific misinterpretations of the modern age. If self-control isn't hardwired at 4, why did hundreds of public school districts redesign their entire curricula around a fake metric? The test wasn't a window into a child's character. It was a reflection of the world they were born into. But the final twist came from what Walter Mischel himself had been trying to tell everyone all along. What if the ability to wait for a marshmallow isn't something you have asterisk, but something you learn asterisk? Lost in the media frenzy was Walter Mischel's original life work. He never believed that willpower was fixed in stone. In fact, Mischel spent his later years in the Bronx, New York, working with children in disadvantaged communities. He wanted to prove that cognitive strategies could be taught to anyone, regardless of background. Mischel taught children simple mental reframing techniques. He called it changing heart representations to cool representations. When children stared at the marshmallow and thought about its sugary, delicious taste, their emotional amygdala lit up like a Christmas tree. They caved in seconds. But when Mischel instructed the children, pretend the marshmallow is just a picture in a frame or a puffy white cloud in the sky, something extraordinary happened. By cooling down the stimulus, 4-year-olds who previously couldn't wait 30 seconds suddenly sat peacefully for 20 full minutes. Self-control wasn't an unchangeable genetic code. It was a mental software update. If you are enjoying this deep dive into human behavior, hit subscribe to join our community on human code. Look at how your own brain makes decisions every day. You open your phone to work, but click a social media app instead. You buy something on credit that you know you can't afford. You are not failing because you lack willpower. You are failing because modern environment designers spend billions of dollars making the marshmallow harder than ever before. Every notification bell, every infinite scroll algorithm, every one-click buy button is engineered specifically to bypass your prefrontal cortex. The secret isn't gritting your teeth and suffering through raw willpower. The secret is altering your environment and reframing the cue. Put the phone in another room. Block the distracting domain. Turn the heart reward into a cold, invisible cloud. So is your entire life's trajectory, sealed by a single, simple choice you made as a 4-year-old. No, the 210-point SAT gap was never about innate human character. It was about security, trust, and strategies. Your future isn't determined by whether you can resist one marshmallow at age 4. It's determined by whether your world has been stable enough to teach you that the second one is actually coming. 50 years ago, a terrified 4-year-old boy sat in a stark room at Stanford, staring at a ticking clock. Today, we know he wasn't battling his destiny. He was just deciding whether to trust the adult who walked out the door. That famous experiment wasn't unique. Decades earlier, another landmark study tried to map human obedience by forcing ordinary people to deliver lethal sharks to strangers. Hit subscribe to Human Code to unlock that case file next week. Next time, fire and cooking. Subscribe, you do not want to miss it.